right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making the trek out here. It's kind of like the furthest point, isn't it? Making sure your Fitbits get plenty of steps in today. Thanks, everyone, for coming to this session. I have to be over here, because otherwise I can't see. I'm kind of short. So today's session is going to be about accelerating user adoption, and we're going to be talking about with partner expertise. So we've got a partner here with us today, Vitalyst, and we've also got two of their customers here to talk about their experience driving adoption and how they worked with Vitalyst to really find some of the skills that they needed to help support that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Over the past few years, we've really been seeing this increased need for focus on value. We all know it, right? You deploy a new technology, and it just doesn't get you quite what you wanted in terms of that value, right? Like you've deployed it, but people aren't specifically using it or fully understanding how to use it to get to the business outcome that they want, right? And I think we love thinking about it in terms of there are some technologies that you can deploy, and most of that benefit you're getting. And really, you just need to do some communication, some training to make sure that you're getting to that full value. There are other technologies where you can deploy it, but not very much happens. How many of you maybe already have teams technically deployed and available to your organization today? Yay, all right, I love it, that's good. How many of you feel like you've got the adoption that you want in terms of teams today? Oh, we got a few hands up, cool, that's awesome. But there's so much more opportunity here. And with teams, it's about the use cases. It's about the why. It's about the value. And being able to really talk to your end users about why they should be using it, how they should be using it, and really coming up with a plan for how you're going to do communications and training and excitement around really driving this. And so some of that you can do yourselves. Maybe all of it you can do yourselves, but what we're seeing is that there's a lot of value in bringing in a partner to help you with either skill sets maybe you don't have, outside perspective. They, of course, have more customers that they're working with, so they're seeing these opportunities across all sorts of different customer sizes and can bring some real amazing expertise to you. The other thing is maybe you've got the skills, but maybe you don't have the bandwidth. None of us have enough time to do everything we want to. So being able to bring in a partner to really help you with this opportunity can be extremely valuable. We're going to get into that a bit more today about when and how you might think about bringing in a partner. So how do you get started? What are the initial questions you ask yourself around adoption? And we're not going to go too far into this today. There's a session tomorrow that Dan Haraldson is doing that I highly recommend you go to. He's going to be talking about the big themes we're seeing in terms of adoption across Microsoft 365. Today we're just going to talk a little bit about this and then get into the partners and what the value is you can get there. So first of all, the first thing you might want to start thinking about is, do you have a clear vision of what is expected to change for end users as a result of the technology initiative? Sometimes yes, sometimes maybe there's more opportunity to have real clarity around that. And with that, you know, our partners, we've got a teamwork assessment that our partners are doing that we've created. And that's a really great way to make sure you're thinking about the why, the business outcomes that you're trying to drive. You want to really get a sense of how much a project's success depends on that employee's willingness and ability to change, that graph we just showed. How much do we need to make sure that they're changing to get that business outcome? And if it's significant, particularly to particular teams or particular departments, how are you going to be thinking about that resistance? Really important to be preparing for resistance. How did you or your teams handle change in the past? Has there been a negative experience in the past? Probably. I think we've all had that experience. And so how do you think about that? And again, know where that resistance is and make a plan about how you're going to ensure that you don't have that negative experience this time. And of course, most important thing, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to make a change, right? It's not, oh, well, we're deploying Yammer because Yammer. You're trying to achieve something, a business outcome. And the more clear you are on that business outcome, the more likely you can talk to your to your end users about why they want to make this change, why they want to use this, and what value they're going to get for it. So those are some of the best questions to ask yourself as you're starting out. And we are seeing some really amazing results. This one is coming from our MCS team and data that they're showing us, but we're seeing the same thing with partners as well. And customers who are using adoption services, who are working with MCS, who are working with partners, are seeing an increase in their adoption of 4.5 times against those who don't. They're seeing real value that is coming out of working with partners, working with someone to help them come up with a strategy and a plan. And with that, I am going to bring up Greg from Vitalyst to talk a little bit about how they approach adoption and how they work with their customers to really help drive this. Come on up, Greg.
All right. Which one clicks? Thank you. All right, well, thanks everybody for being out here. Like Jenny said, I know we're at the very end of the road, so a lot of steps. I'll be interested to see how our all the steps are tracking for me at the end of this. I know we've put a lot of miles on just today. So my name is Greg Headley. I'm the Alliance Director for Vitalyst. And for those of you who don't know, Vitalyst is a Microsoft Gold partner. We led the pack as far as national systems integrators for Teams adoption last year. So something we're really proud about. And we think of ourselves as a change enablement partner. So we take the best parts of, well, all the parts of change management and the things that really help customers understand kind of what is that journey going to look like and what are some of the blockers that may show up as you're on your way, and combine that with the change execution side of things. So where we are helping your end users along that journey to be successful using the technology that you're rolling out. We package all of that under what we call really a digital adoption solutions, and we reach out into our customers at scale to help manage those transformations along the life cycle for using Microsoft products and services. I think I hit the wrong button. There you go. So well, a couple things. Why is change so hard? And why is enabling organizational change so critical to digital transformation? So I'd like to ask a question. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody here has been involved in a project either as a project lead or a project team member. Has anybody ever been involved in a project that didn't go great? Okay. You ever thought to yourself, what would this, if it weren't for all the people involved, this would have been a really flawless project, right? So, and that's the common denominator is people, right? Most all of the projects that we're going to work on are going to involve people actually using the tools. And we see that on average, enterprise projects run 45% over budget, 7% over time, and deliver over or less than half the value that they were expecting when they started. But we also know that change management is a success enabler. So as you can see on this chart, and this is taken, I've seen this on a couple different areas, and I think it varies by 1 percentage point on the excellence side. But those companies that can achieve change management effectiveness at a level of excellent are able to see a 600% increase in the likelihood of meeting objectives. So, I mean, that's terrific. That's a pretty lofty goal, though. So even at the poor level, or for companies who are just starting to get their minds around, what does change mean for us, and how do we really start to embrace the people side of change to make these more successful? Going from poor to fair returns a 300% increase in the likelihood of meeting objectives. So in a nutshell, the better you're able to manage, the better change management, or better at effectively managing change for your people, the better likelihood of success for those projects. And change is always happening, so it's a good investment no matter what. So when you look at just what are the objectives that we're trying to accomplish for most projects, we really just need to hit 3 things, right? We got to make sure the projects meet objectives, right? We want to get the business value that we had set out when we started. We want to make sure they finish on time and on budget, and we get a return on investment. So pretty standard, common things. We know, too, that active and visible sponsorship is probably the key ingredient for successful projects. Having your leaders out there really evangelizing that and communicating the why. as well as project management and change management. Change management really focusing on the people side. I now work at a change management company, but I've worked at a number of different ISVs where the technical part was great. We could deliver on that. The people side wasn't our problem. But we started hearing about that becoming a problem for customers, and that's where 5 years ago I got the insight to go, hey, I should go look into this a little more and help our customers be more successful as they roll out these products. So how do we do that? At Vitalyst, we've created our own sort of proprietary methodology, and this is based off ProSci and the ADKAR methodology. I'm not sure. How many of you are familiar with ProSci in the room? Okay. ADKAR is a great acronym. It stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And all of these things are just tools to help you understand where are the potential roadblocks for your end user community and provide some mechanisms to help resolve those as they come up. So at Vitalyst, Propel is really at the core of everything we do. We start with a change enablement workshop. We use that to really understand where is the organization at and really get to the bottom of the needs that different users will have. Different user communities or different parts of the business, they're going to have very different requirements than, say, the organization as a whole, and what they think of as the more broad digital transformation project. As are executive stakeholders, they'll have much different requirements or needs than the end users who are actually going to be using some of this technology to make things happen. So we do all of that to make sure that when we're approaching our customers, we understand exactly where they're at, where they're going, and that we can deploy the right resources at the right time and in the right areas to reach their end user community. So what does this all look like? I've got up here, and I think you can see that pretty well. So this is a service map. This is actually, we did this for a customer of ours that was doing an Office 365 rollout. And I'll just note, not every single customer is going to need us at every step along the way. I think there were some people in here who are already well on their way to Teams adoption and deployment, and that's fantastic. Others, they have it, it's in there, they just need help with the user side of things. Where can we bring people in to help them, or as we prepare to roll this out? But here we take what we've learned and sort of build out a plan for our customers. So on the Discover side, this is really where we start to build a baseline and understand where they're at currently. We use change enablement workshops, or like Jenny mentioned, a teamwork assessment to get a sense of what do you want to do and why is this important to your business? And then we start to move forward in the planning phase, where we take all of that information and build out the communications plan, as well as just really understanding what are the different learning styles of the people in your business, and how do we deliver the right types of learning so that they can get the most out of the products and do the best work that they can. As we move further along, we get to adopt, and this is really where the action happens, kick the tires and light the fires, right? We got people that are going to start using the tools, and what are the things that we can do to help support them along the way? There's a number of things we offer, services around self-help resources or guides. We'll do employee outreach call-outs, where we start to see maybe a lack of usage in certain areas. We'll identify those through analytics and reporting. It can help you kind of identify and put plans together to move those folks along as well. And then we get into the empower side, and this is where we hopefully are starting to see real ROI, seeing a change in the behavior of the people in your organizations so that they're using the tools. And again, along the way, we're using analytics and reporting to show how we can continue to drive that usage up and keep it sustained and healthy all along the way. So I just wanted to add here's a couple examples from some other customers that we're working with, that this stuff actually really does work. We can see, I won't go into every single detail here, but we've got a couple of large retailer where in 30 days we were able to drive significant uptick in their Teams usage. With a little more time, we can see even more growth in Teams usage here, and then the large global company with OneDrive. But at this point, I know it's probably harder to take from me. We've got a couple of that we're really, really thankful that are here, that we'd like to invite to the stage and kind of let them talk through their experience and journey on their side. So I'd like to welcome Alyssa Gonzalez from CBS and Nancy Wong from Pacific Life. Whoops.
You dropped something.
Didn't see that happen.
Alrighty. Kind of an awkward setup right here, but we're going to all scoot in and get cozy here. Wonderful. All right. Well, as a starting point, I'd love for you guys both to introduce yourselves and to share your role in your company.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, I need to give you guys the mics. That would probably be a good idea.
I'm sure I can talk about it.
There you guys go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nancy Wong, and I work for Pacific Life on Southern California. We are a big little company, about 3,500 employees, mostly in the U.S., and we implemented Teams about 60 days ago. I work in the Change Management Center of Excellence, so I oversee all the change efforts in conjunction with our project management offices.
Hey everyone, I'm Melissa Gonzalez. I'm a Senior Director of User Experience at CBS. Obviously, we're a pretty large global company, and we have several different divisions under our umbrella, which leads to a lot of different types of cultures and the ways that people learn. We recently deployed Teams as well as other Office 365 apps, and my team really drives collaboration, change management, and ensure that we're approaching it from an end user perspective.
Awesome. I'd love to start by talking about the catalyst for you in terms of thinking about adoption and change beyond just the technology piece of this. And also then, how you thought to seek out Vitalyst as part of that, how you wanted to approach that.
Sure. So we had obviously had some technology deployments in the past where there was a pretty big focus on getting the technology out there, but not a major focus on how the end users actually experience that. When we would deploy communications, it would say, this change is happening on this date, and here's what's going to happen, that's it. Right? So there's really no conversation about what is the benefit to you and what are we really doing to support you. So we've really had a major transition to focus on end user education and an increase on communication and adoption. So when we started to look at Office 365, I mean, that suite is so large and so powerful. And we really wanted to break it up into the different areas that we thought were the most powerful and that people would be able to focus on first, and then build a plan for how to push the other services. Oh. It says it's on. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking.
You want that one?
Sure. All right.
Oh, there you go.
So we engaged with Vitalyst because we simply didn't have the capacity and the manpower to do that alone. We really needed a partner to come in first, advise us on, how do we do this for such a large company, and what are our options? We have so many different cultures, and we really wanted to understand the use cases across our business so we could really tailor that experience, especially with teams, that would drive the adoption the quickest and the most effectively. So we really started to look for support in that area because we wanted ultimately to invest in our people to ensure their success.
For us, it was kind of a selfish play on my part as I'm trying to build our change capabilities at the company. There's just not enough communication channels. People don't read email. People don't look at our intranet. And so I saw Teams as another communication channel that can be leveraged across the tsunami of changes that we're trying to implement with our transformation. So I kind of ran into a presentation about how Teams and all the apps can drive different things in the change management lifecycle with Planner and Poly and all the other things. And I got really excited. And I went to our IT director and I'm like, we need to do change management better on this project. And he's like, okay. And I said, this is what it can do, and blah, blah, blah. And I went on and on. And I was like, I need some money. How much money can you give me? We need to get a partner to do this. I don't have the capacity to do it. I'll be the liaison to help partner to make sure they understand our organizational landscape and speak in our tone and our language. But we really need to hit this out of the park. And if we do, this is how it could really benefit you. And he kind of went like this. And I'm like, Juan, how much of your adoption is based on people, how much of your success is based on people using the tool versus deploying it? And he was like, ooh, that's pretty high. I go, exactly. Give me some money. We need to drive this. We can't just install the solution. We have to get people using it. So that's how we convince. And then the same thing as Alyssa. We just didn't have the capacity to do it and to bring in the rigor that a partner can bring in with a constant focus on it, keeping us on task, keeping our project manager, our business analyst, and myself on task twice a week for 30 minutes, as little of a time as it took. And the change practitioner that was on our account was fantastic, and she just kept us on task. And we just the amount of discipline she applied made us hit our go live date, and our numbers went crazy, off the charts. Now we're still kind of getting people to use it other than just chatting, but definite great entry point.
I love that. I love the strategy that we just heard, just to go and tell your boss, give us some money. No, I love it. Yeah, I'd love to get in a little bit more about kind of the obviously you have to be invested and you have to be part of this, but then a partner can come in and help kind of augment what you can do. So I'd love to get a sense of kind of the resources that you found that you had on your team, and then maybe what you didn't have and maybe what you needed to go and really work with a partner for.
You go first. My battery is dead. Sorry about that.
End of the day.
End of the day. It happens.
Stay for the mic.
Yeah, so I think internally we thought it was really important that we understand our culture the best. We also understand the way that our end users communicate the best. So you referenced a lot of people don't read their emails, right? So we kind of know those channels. We know the business leaders. So we had that structure in order to be able to engage effectively across the organization and across our divisions. We also had really powerful client services and service desk technicians who are partners with us, who are there to pass that over, who are there to support deployments like this. So I think that was a major point of success, is that we still had our kind of first tier support, our first line of defense, who could do some of that white glove service, and we made sure to train them first. What we didn't have was, like I said, really the manpower, and we really didn't have enough people to employ the variety of types of learning that we were looking for. So with Vitalyst, we do a very wide range of different training and adoption activities. That ranges from phone support, so one-on-one phone support. It connects directly into our normal support number, and then you're immediately connected to someone who has a deep functional understanding of Office 365, so you're immediately getting that answer. We also did a variety of remote webinars, documented self-help within a central hub location, an integration with our existing learning platform, as well as one-on-one Excite days, which take a ton logistically to actually be able to deploy, especially if you have 20 plus locations. So being able to have that additional support, as well as a team that deeply understood the functionality of all the different platforms that we were looking for, whether it was Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Planner, OneNote, the list goes on, that was a major benefit for us.
Agreed. The only thing I would add is just the support from a communication standpoint too, because we just have a limited amount of people. Everyone can write, and people just don't have confidence that they can write, so they don't write. And so just having those writers, communication people to come in to do those use cases and write up the documentation to help build out our internal portal for a resource center, that was such a heavy lift, and it was just such a relief to have people there to do that for us.
Yeah, and having people who've done it before as well, right? So they've seen what works and maybe what doesn't always work. And while each culture is different, that starting with some templates or, and then from there being able to apply those to your culture, just gets you that running start, right? Absolutely. Awesome. What are the lessons that you've learned so far in this journey? What are the things that maybe surprised you along the way or you weren't expecting?
One lesson I can think off the top of my head was how much Vitalyst used Teams to manage the project. And so all of us on the project learned it so much quicker, and then we could be even stronger advocates for the tool. And I wasn't expecting that to happen. So I was like, oh yeah, I set up the meeting on Teams. Yeah, of course she's gonna use Teams. And then the more she used it, I was like, wow, this is powerful. And so I learned kind of in tandem with it. So that was a really nice surprise that I wasn't expecting.
I love that.
Yeah, I think for us, we had almost a direct comparison. A couple years ago, we had deployed another file storage and sharing tool where we did not have the structure behind the project, and it kind of fell flat. And as IT, it was kind of a black eye, right? People did not want to use the technology we had deployed, and it wasn't necessarily anything about that specific technology. It was just really that rollout was not structured in a way that led to successful adoption. So having that direct comparison between seeing a technology be deployed and fail because there wasn't a change management structure and focus on adoption, communication, education, and now doing what we're doing with Office 365, which is of course still a work in progress, it's just been transformational. And when we were really looking at how we were going to deploy Office 365, we built a communication plan that was targeted around the phrase, transform the way you work. I think one of the things that I'm still surprised by is the variety of use cases that we hear across our business. You know, even as a technologist, you think you understand in a broad, sweep the way that people work. And I hear from all of our different departments every single day, hey, we could really use some help figuring out how to solve this problem. Or how do I apply this manual process? How can I do this in Teams? And having someone to bounce that off of is also just really transformational for us to really be able to say, I have a great answer for you, and we have someone who can support you and help.
I love that. Anything you wanted to add there, Greg?
No, I think you guys are doing it.
I know, right? Talk to me about Teams and how that's been kind of different or the same as the way that you've been approached. Because both of you were already doing change management principles when you were doing just kind of Office 365, and then you've recently been looking at Teams and starting to deploy that as well. How has that been different, or how have you been able to kind of take what you were already building and align it to Teams as well?
So I think at CBS, one of our greatest challenges was just the level of fragmentation that we had in our environment. We had a bunch of different file sharing tools, chat tools, WebEx for phone calls, all these different things, right? So I think strategically we had to take a beat and really help to drive a conversation within the business about these are the tools that are going to drive value for you. And unfortunately, there are some things that may not be there anymore, right? But it's really to help you. So when you say, I need to speak with somebody, you know where to find them and you don't have to go to 20 different tools, right? So I think particularly with Teams, we tried to create a strategy where, people understood this is what email is for. We're not taking away email, right? You can do some integrations within Teams with email. We still do have pieces of Slack within the business, and here's where Slack can be really valuable still for you. However, Teams is going to be your new go-to, and we really tried to make Teams not just a chat platform, but a productivity platform. So we really, when we're doing training for Teams, don't focus on chat. We do not spend a ton of time saying this is how you can direct message somebody, right? This is the structure of that. We really focus on, this is how you can real-time co-author within Teams without having to bounce between applications. This is how you can bring a group calendar into Teams. This is how you can integrate Planner. This is how you can get a bunch of add-ins for the tools that you're using all within Teams. And I feel like that really drives the message of how powerful Teams is as beyond chat. And that was key for us.
We made the mistake of leading with Teams. And it was funny because Vitalyst, even our account person said, I strongly recommend you do Exchange first. And there was some reasons that I don't speak the same language as a lot of you guys, but there's a lot of some reasons why they couldn't do that. And sure enough, we had issues when we went live on Teams because there was just limited functionality because we hadn't done Exchange yet. So I think, to your point, that's what we led with. So it got people excited, and now we're going to have to, now that we've done the waves of Exchange, and now we have to get people real excited again because now there's different functionality available with calendaring and things like that. So we should have listened. Not my fault. But anyway, so that was kind of a lesson, kind of when you say how did Teams make it different? We actually led with that.
Yeah, I do think sometimes taking that beat to really understand kind of where you're at and making sure that the IT and the business are having the conversation together. The teamwork assessment that a lot of our partners do really brings those two together for that conversation to really think about, where is this going to be a win, and where are there things that we might have that are going to be a problem? There's nothing worse than having to go back, right, to get that excitement again. Like that can be quite difficult. So yeah, absolutely. And then I love the co-authoring. Co-authoring is so powerful, isn't it? I mean, in Teams, it's like such an amazing use case that I think a lot of us, once we're already doing it, we almost forget about how powerful it is. But what an amazing one to really drive that. I love it. Alrighty, let's see. 2 more questions for you guys. So one is, biggest lesson learned that you would share with somebody else who's just starting out on this journey?
I mean, I think, again, to bring it back, I think the focus on communications was huge. We had a communication plan that spanned for months prior to deploying teams, and we are still engaging on after the fact. And it's going to be something that is continuous and that we also need to work into our onboarding, right? Now we've worked on training the organization, but we have new people coming on every day that need to also learn these lessons and learn the way that people work. And I think also, again, Microsoft, the platform is so large and there are so many benefits to it, but if you're not within the technology department, you don't have an immediate familiarity with Microsoft Office 365. It doesn't mean anything to you. So we really focused on Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint for our initial deployment and really tried to drive the value of those specific tools. And now, as people are starting to adopt them, we're keeping an eye on our metrics, our KPIs, and figuring out where there are opportunities across the business to start to pull in some of the other tools within the platform, whether that's Planner or Power Apps or Flow. But we really wanted to meet our customers and our end users ultimately where they were and not just make assumptions about, okay, you should already know what this is because you guys use PowerPoint, right? So you know what Microsoft is. So that was something that was really important to us. And I think also setting expectations on metrics for adoption is super important. You know, this isn't something that you're going to push out and because you've been communicating, because you've been training, people will immediately start to use. Change takes time. And that's not just with technology, that's in your daily life, right? So I think understanding what success is for you and what patterns and what behavior you want to influence and change is major, and that really will help with when you're communicating to leadership as well, saying it's not just active users, right? It's how many files are we seeing being stored and shared on a daily basis? You know, are we seeing people chat more privately, which keeps knowledge contained in a little box, versus actually having conversations in teams and allowing you to share that knowledge with a larger group of people? So those are some of the things that I think were really impactful for us.
I'm going to share the biggest lesson learned from our project management team, to do pilot groups with non-IT people.
Yes.
When I joined and they said, oh, we already have a pilot group identified, I go, oh, great, let me see who it is. And it was all IT people. And I go, wait a minute, what? Those people, these are people that have a lean towards, a bent towards technology. We need some fresh people. No, well, we want to make sure we're testing and the system, works and all that. Okay, then those are pre-pilot people. I need people who know nothing. So the project manager was like, literally the IT people were like, oh, that's really helpful. And then we got really good information from them. So that was kind of the first lesson, is make sure you have people who, don't try and teach Spanish to somebody who's fluent in Spanish, right? Get some people who your biggest resistors, who just, your people who reject it. And the second big lesson that I've learned on other projects that we applied here is don't lead with training. We had the ad car model up there, and I always say, do your ad campaign, awareness and desire, before you do any training. Because if people don't have the context for what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what's in it for them, how they're going to benefit, you will be disappointed with your results. So make sure you do your ad campaign, do a user assessment. Do people know what it is, why it's important, how it's going to benefit them? Then they're ready for training. Otherwise, you'll have to, the two most expensive words in the alphabet are R and E. Retraining, redo, redesign, right? So make sure you're not jumping to that.
And I think just one last thing to add is listen. Have a plan for how to listen and gather feedback from your business users, from your end users, whether that's surveying, whether you do net promoter score activities, but just have a way where you can actually be able to listen and anecdotally understand what's working and what's not, so you know where to go next.
Yeah.
I would just add one thing too, because and this came up yesterday, and that's do you want to do it right or do it fast? And there was a question that came up, and they said, well, how can you do this as quickly as possible? And in some cases, that may be the right thing to do, where you've got deadlines or milestones or maybe end of life of another technology, and then find partners that can work to that schedule. But it's okay to pump the brakes and really be thoughtful about how you do this, and make sure your users aren't just thrown into the deep end of the pool and left on their own. So I do think there's some value in that. We talked about, hey, in 30 days we did this, 90 days we do that, and those are great, but it may not be right for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the point around, training is, it's absolutely critical, but it is not the same thing as, adoption and change management, right? It is one component of a much larger puzzle, and if you do the right things to make sure you're talking about why and getting them excited, then when you are investing in training and spending what will be money on, really making that investment, you're making sure that people are, one, attending, two, actually going into it and really understanding why they want to and what they want to get out of that training. So when you do make that plan ahead of time, you're ensuring that the investments that you make are actually going towards getting the results that you want. So it's amazing what that planning up front can do in terms of ensuring that you're going to have that success. So, yeah.
I find people will go get the training themselves. And we have LinkedIn Learning as a platform. And if you guys have that, there's so many great videos on Microsoft Teams. And if we did a lot of, and then we launched LinkedIn Learning at the same time, and people are like, oh, look at all the stuff I found on Teams. So people will just get out of the way. People will go get the information that they want.
If you get folks excited about it, they will. They'll go and they'll find it. If they're not excited and you're pushing training on them, they're not going to hear it, right? It's just human nature. I love it. All right, one more question for you guys, which is, what's next for you in this, adoption and change journey? Obviously, the products continue to change. Literally, we heard so many new things today, didn't we? So how are you kind of thinking about the next steps of this for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think we're going to kind of continue our cloud transformation. I think we probably have some file share migrations in the future because we really want to get, people being able to use the tools for not only their new content, but their old content. And that's something that we're really going to need to pick up and focus on. We're always still going to be removing Skype now that Teams is deployed, so that's something that's going to be coming up. And really just continuing to reduce that fragmentation in our environment and drive education. Something that I'm super excited about is private channels, on a personal note. That's something we've been waiting for a long time. And really taking a look, again, at our communication strategy. So when changes like that happen, we're ready to communicate them and do more around, tips and tricks. And now that people have baseline information, how can we skill them up?
Yeah, love that.
I think, after the keynote this morning and what did he call it, the Tech Teamwork Hub, I think I'm going to brand that internally because I feel like we just scratched the surface. In fact, I took a picture of the Microsoft area and put it on our internal social networking, and I'm like, be prepared, you guys, because this is just a digital transformation. It's just going to be a productivity explosion. And so I'm really excited to rebrand it and do some work on just the Teamwork Hub, because it's just scratched the surface on the functionality. So I feel like with Power Platforms, and I really don't even know what I'm talking about. I just kind of parrot things that I hear, that I feel like it's just really going to explode. So I'm excited to see it take off.
Yeah, we're trying to explore like chatbots, driving automation, and doing more with less, right? We want to kind of explore a ticket lists experience where, you can kind of ping a chatbot in Teams and get a quick answer to your tech question. So those are kind of the directions that we're really looking at and that we're excited about.
I love the way you say that, because I mean, that's exactly it. We are just scratching the surface right now. There is so much more opportunity there, but each one of those opportunities is a change that our end users are going to have to figure out how to come along with. And how do we start building in this flexibility and the capability to continue to change, because we know there's just more and more that's going to happen for us to really use these tools for productivity. So. Wonderful. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate you guys coming out and sharing your story. I've got a few more slides I'm going to share, so I'll scoot around here. And these guys are going to be here, so after the session, please come and chat with them and learn from them about what they've done. You can ask them all your tough questions. We also have tons of fantastic partners who are here this week. So obviously we've got Vitalyst here. Greg and I are going to be at the adoption booth right after this. So come by and say hi and ask your questions. We've also got tons of other great partners who've got booths or who are around this week. Reply, Slalom, Atia, Software One, Changing Social, CoreView, Brainstorm, Storyalls. I think I saw Content and Code over there. All fantastic partners who can really help you with this. So stop by the booths, chat with partners and really understand what they can do. Let's talk a little bit about why. Why would you want to chat with a partner? What can they bring? Obviously, you heard from Melissa and Nancy kind of some of the reasons why they sought out Vitalyst. Again, our partners have a lot of experience across this, right? They're working with many customers, and so they've got a real strong breadth of experience working with different types of changes, different types of cultures. So they can really bring that to you, that outside perspective on this opportunity. They can also do things from advisory to consulting to real enablement and execution services. So they can support you at different points in this opportunity as well. I'll show you a graph in a second on that. They also have a depth of experience. A lot of them have consultants who've done ProSci certification, who really have a deep understanding and many years of experience around doing change, really understanding end users and the opportunity there. Also often a depth of experience bringing together that change with Microsoft technology, so they can really understand the end users, but also how it really applies and really getting into that technical space of it as well. In-person training, right? You might not have, people on your staff who can do that. So bringing in someone who can be there in person. I think Alyssa also mentioned, bringing in people for, excitement activities, and can't always have the bandwidth you want on your team to be able to really support those at the level. So bringing in a partner to be able to be part of that and really help with that can be very valuable. Having an expert there. Digital scale, right? How are you thinking about platforms you might be able to use in terms of training? You don't want to have to build that out. You've already got partners who have, so leverage them where you can for things, whether that's a training platform, could be gamification. We're seeing a lot of great opportunity to really drive this through a little bit more fun. And really looking at the usage data to be able to really drive a more targeted conversation as well. So you can really drive a conversation not just of, hey, let's focus on this department doing this, but oh, in this department, we're seeing the usage of Teams is actually really low, where it's higher over here. Let's go and have a really specific conversation with this department on specifically their usage of Teams and a use case that will align there. So you can get much more targeted when you get into that usage details. And hopefully everyone heard about the productivity score earlier today. Really cool opportunity to tie all of that together, the business outcomes and the usage data. So do drop by the adoption booth this week and learn more about that. And if you want, maybe even sign up for the private preview, because it's a really cool, powerful tool. And then staff augmentation, you might want to have someone come in and be part of your change team for a certain amount of time to really help you, have that bandwidth, to be able to have that person who's keeping you on task and really helping to support the structure around that change. We really do have partners who can do all different pieces of this that can help you where you need. So the really important thing is figuring out, what is it exactly that you need? Is it you need someone to help you go through and think about, why are we doing this change? And to really think about, what are the business outcomes that you're trying to drive? Mentioned before, teamwork assessment is something that we have to help you really, bring together business and IT to have that conversation and really understand, what is it that we're trying to do here? Do you need someone to help you actually create the plan? To actually go through the process of thinking about, what is our communication strategy, training strategy, resistance management, sponsor roadmap, reinforcement plan, also super important, right? You can get people using it, maybe even fast, but will they keep using it, or will they slide back to former behaviors? Our partners have lots of great consulting skills to help you think through, what is that plan that you're going to execute on. They can also help, again, I mentioned, with execution support. This could be communications, it could be awareness days, buzz days, end user training, coaching, train the trainers, mid-level managers in your company. Super important. You don't want to forget about them, because they can either be your biggest supporter or your biggest area of resistance if they're telling their teams, oh, forget about that. We don't need to worry about that, right? So how are you thinking about your strategy to ensure that you're communicating to them and you're training them in a way that's really going to get them involved? So you really can be thinking about that kind of train the trainer motion as well. I mentioned gamification, lots of great partners doing really interesting stuff there to drive that excitement and get teams kind of going up against each other, leaderboards. So lots of different services and opportunities there. And then finally, this ongoing support. Change isn't just a one-time thing, right? And we talked about it, Teams in particular. Okay, great, you've got people using chat. Now, what about calling, meetings? What about particular workflows that you want to bring into teams? There is so much opportunity to really drive business outcomes and business value, to drive impact on your business with Teams, with Microsoft 365. So how are you thinking about this? Not just that one time, but actually having somebody, your partner in crime on this, to help you drive to that next level, to look at that usage data and help you figure out what's the next opportunity to drive value within your company. So look to your partners to be able to help you to do that as well and be there in the long term for you. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this one last slide. These are some of our self-service resources that Microsoft makes available around adoption. Our partners can help you to understand these. They can help you to implement some of these, to build on top of these. I've included here that we've got sessions on almost every single one of these throughout the week. So please do go and keep going to all of the sessions and learning as much as you can about all of these great resources, how you can leverage them, and how you can drive adoption and change in your company. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.